evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. The Teton County Coroner releases the results of Gabby Petito's autopsy. It shows that she died by strangulation around late August. Brooklyn Nets player Kyrie Irving is not allowed to practice or play anymore. He can, though, if he gets vaccinated. Shelves are empty in New York City pharmacies. Employees say thieves walk out with full hands every day, but the police can't do much about it. Netflix suspends employees, one of whom opposes Dave Chappelle's stand-up special. Netflix defends its actions, but says this isn't about the special. The results of Gabby Petito's autopsy are out. The Teton County coroner in Wyoming found that she died by strangulation, but they are unable to determine the exact date of her death.
The Teton County Coroner's Office announced Tuesday the results of 22-year-old Gabby Petito's autopsy.
We find the cause and manner to be death by strangulation, and manner is homicide. By Wyoming state statute, only the cause and manner of death are released. Their autopsy findings and photographs and that sort of material is not released by state statute.
The autopsy indicates that Petito's remains were in the wilderness for around 3 to 4 weeks before they were found. That would make her time of death around late August. But the coroner's office can't pin down the exact date.
The remains have been returned to the mortuary here, and the mortuary is dealing with the family at this time as far as the disposition of the remains.
Petito started off on a cross-country road trip with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, in July. Petito's last contact with her family was in late August. The coroner declines to comment on whether Laundrie killed Petito.
Who committed the homicide is up to law enforcement.
The coroner notes that this case got a lot more media attention than similar cases.
It's unfortunate that these other deaths do not get as much coverage as this one. I'm assuming that because the deceased was a blogger, that this received more coverage than others. But there are a lot of both men and women who have lost their lives that aren't covered with this kind of media attention.
Authorities started investigating Petito's disappearance on September 11th. That's after her family reported her missing. After a search, officials found her remains in Bridger-Teton National Forest in Wyoming on September 19th. The FBI continues to search for Laundrie, who is considered a person of interest.
And the House this evening is expected to pass a debt ceiling bill, raising the national debt limit by nearly $500 billion. This would avoid an economic recession, but it'll be a temporary solution to a long-term issue. Congress will need to address this again in 2 months. NTD's Melina Wisecup has more from Capitol Hill.
Raising this debt ceiling has been a long, drawn-out process, as we've seen over the past couple of weeks. It's been sort of a hassle, and so to solve this in the long term, some members in the House are proposing for the Treasury Secretary to be able to raise the debt ceiling alone without the need for Congress to sign off on it. Now, this is something that Speaker Pelosi herself says she supports.
I think it has merit. Yes, I do think it has merit.
The new proposal put forth by Representatives John Yarmouth and Brendan Boyle would strip Congress of its power to raise the debt ceiling, leaving the Treasury Secretary to raise the debt ceiling at will and in any amount without needing pre-approval from Congress. In that case, the only way to hold the Treasury accountable would be for Congress to overrule the debt limit increase through a new bill that would have to be approved in the House and garner 60 votes in the Senate. Speaker Pelosi, justifying this, says that getting so close to a debt default for the first time in history calls for a change of rules.
Many Democrats and Republicans have voted against lifting the debt ceiling, but never to the extent of jeopardizing it. This is the first time.
And after weeks of back and forth between the parties and the chambers, Congress has approved raising the debt ceiling by $480 billion, avoiding an unprecedented default, at least for now.
Now, even with this temporary debt ceiling increase, the same issue will pop up again in December. And Speaker Pelosi says that they're working to get Republicans to sign on for a more long-term solution, but that doesn't look promising so far. When this move passed in the Senate last week, the bare minimum of Republicans signed on in order to pass it. And immediately after, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that Republicans will not help Democrats to raise the debt ceiling again in December, just hinting that the same partisan standoff will come up again around Christmas. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And Speaker Pelosi today confirmed that some of the social programs in the Democrats' budget bill will be cut. She wrote in a letter that they need to focus on doing fewer things well. This is so Congress can lower the price tag to a number Democrats can agree on, around $2 trillion, instead of the whopping $3.5 trillion. And a new study shines some light on potential bias by big tech. It examines the censorship of members of Congress, and it finds that Republicans are censored over 50 times more often than Democrats. NTD's Kevin Hogan has more on that and a senator's comments.
The conservative-leaning Media Research Center published a new study. Their conclusion is that GOP Congress members are censored at a rate of 54-1 compared to Democrats. The study looked at lawmakers in the House and the Senate, and it found that posts about the 2020 election and COVID-19 were especially censored. Senator Ron Johnson highlighted big tech censorship of posts on early treatment with the use of repurposed drugs.
I just remember doctors doing videos out of New York. Recognizing that the ventilators weren't working. I remember a couple doctors out of California talking about how they were treating COVID with repurposed drugs, and those videos were taken down. They were censored, and as a result, the only thing we've done in terms of COVID is what the NIH tells us to do, which is nothing.
Johnson's referring to the NIH's stay-at-home orders, but he did acknowledge the NIH now allows the use of monoclonal antibodies to treat COVID. The study cites how YouTube deleted videos from Senators Johnson and Rand Paul and suspended their accounts. It also points to the censorship of Representative Thomas Massie.
Representative Thomas Massie was just the latest victim. He posted about the possibility of natural immunity in COVID, and his tweet was censored, and Twitter prevented it from being liked, shared, retweeted, or even replied to. Even quote tweets were limited. You had to click through something to get through one of the interstitials just to be able to quote tweet it.
Twitter says its platform cannot be used to promote what it calls conspiracy theories or alarmist rhetoric surrounding COVID-19. The platform says if rumors are left without context, it can put people at risk, so they must be removed. Johnson alleged big tech censorship has impacted the 2020 election as well. He pointed to censorship of his and Senator Chuck Grassley's report on Hunter Biden's financial dealings, which he says may have impacted the outcome of the election had Americans known about it. The founder of the Media Research Center says if the big tech bias continues at this rate, it should be a top priority for Congress to take up.
I find it astounding that I'm repeating what was said in 1991 when I was asked to go to Nicaragua by President Bush to explore the idea of free and fair elections in a Marxist country. And now in 2021, we're talking about free and fair elections in the United States of America. I think it is that serious.
We reached out to Twitter, Facebook, and Google, but they didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. The company's leadership has previously denied any partisanship. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
And the CEO of Southwest Airlines denies that vaccine mandates were behind the mass flight cancellations. Instead, he suggests it's because of what he calls absenteeism. But the CEO also says he's not in favor of Biden's vaccine mandate for corporations. And Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving is no longer allowed to play or even practice with his team. That's because of his vaccination status. The 29-year-old guard previously refused to say whether he's vaccinated or not, and his team sent out a statement this morning saying that Irving made a personal choice, and they respect that. But they say his choice hinders him from being a full-time member. Due to New York City's vaccine mandate, people have to be vaccinated to enter an indoor stadium. But the team won't allow him to play in away games either. They say he'll be back on the team once he gets the shot. And teachers against New York City's vaccine mandate had their day in court today, and many gathered outside the trial awaiting the results. NTD's Jason Perry went to the federal courthouse to find out more.
We're here in New York City, right outside of the federal courthouse in Manhattan. Teachers for Choice founder Michael Cain and 8 others filed a temporary restraining order against the New York City Department of Education to try to end the vaccine mandates for adults, and their request was denied.
So we did not prevail today. There is not an injunction, but there is still a way forward.
Kane's attorney Sujata Gibson says the city's vaccine policy discriminates based on what religion you belong to.
The mayor has gone on record saying he will only accept religious exemptions from 2 religions. That violates the Establishment Clause.
Susan, who is a teacher in New York City, also noted that Christian Scientists and Jehovah's Witnesses were getting religious exemptions while other religions were not. She attended the last 2 hearings against New York City's Department of Education, or DOE.
The first judge the other day, last week, questioned DOE representatives. Do you understand that this is religious discrimination, which will bring up more lawsuits in the future with you, DOE?
America was founded on the belief that there are certain rights that it's not supposed to be given by the government, it's given by God. And whether you believe in God is I'm not a religious person myself, but that idea that we have these certain inalienable rights that are given to us by God, that has to be honored.
Michael Kane says although they lost their battle in court today, he said they will not lose the war. And his attorney said she'll continue to look at all the options and then choose the best way forward. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
And a federal judge ruled today that New York State cannot impose a vaccine mandate on healthcare workers without allowing their employers to consider religious exemption requests. The U.S. District Judge ruled that New York State's workplace vaccination requirement conflicted with healthcare workers' federally protected right to seek religious accommodations from their employers. The ruling provides a test case as workers continue fighting vaccine mandates in court. And shoplifting is on the rise in New York City, especially in pharmacies. And employees are saying they can't do much about it. NTD's Arian Pazdar investigated at some drug retailers in Manhattan.
Lipstick. It's small, but it can easily cost you $20 or $30. Now, you would expect women to buy this, but some men want it so much they resort to stealing it. Shoplifters walk in a store like this one, take what they want, and then they sell it on the street. All this shoplifting, of course, results in missing items, half-empty shelves and completely empty shelves. As you can see, it's mostly the pricey items that are harder to get now if you want to buy them legally. I spoke with different employees and they all said that lately shoplifters have been hitting them every day. One employee said, "Which pharmacy doesn't get robbed these days? We've been robbed just 1 hour ago." I asked the city's police department what they're planning to do about the ongoing issue. They didn't answer the question, but sent a statement saying complaints for shoplifting have gone up. Last year at this time, they had 20,000 such complaints. This year, it's at 26,000 so far. So why are people stealing so much these days? The NYPD blames it on bail reform, which took effect in New York City last year. Because of it, shoplifters, among other offenders, get released the same day they commit a crime. According to reports, one man has been arrested for shoplifting almost 60 times this year alone. He's not in prison, and it doesn't look like the laws are going to change anytime soon. Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
A Netflix employee who publicly blistered the company for keeping Dave Chappelle on the streaming service has been suspended. But Netflix has defended its decision, which they say came after the employee crashed a meeting. NTD's Miguel Moreno has the details.
Variety reports that Netflix has suspended 3 employees because they joined Netflix's business quarterly review without being invited. Netflix hasn't told us what these employees said in this meeting or why they joined, but what we do know is that one of the employees, one who identifies as trans and queer, has publicly taken issue with Netflix and also Dave Chappelle's comedy special. In a tweet last week, Tara Field said, "I work at Netflix. Yesterday we launched another Chappelle special where he attacks the trans community and the very validity of transness." Stand-up comedy. Dave Chappelle is a stand-up comedian. In his special, The Closer, he criticized the LGBT community for condemning and canceling people who utter opinions they disagree with. He criticized the community for several other reasons. Netflix denies suspending Field for her tweet. In a statement to Variety, they said, "Our employees are encouraged to disagree openly, and we support their right to do so." Some LGBT organizations like GLAAD have condemned Chappelle's special and agree with others who believe the stand-up comedian should be deplatformed. But the New Yorkers we spoke with want Chappelle to stay.
What he did is trying to break the new bounds that's being created. So right now we have all these political correctness bounds that's being built. And Dave Chappelle's like, wait, hold up. Let me just climb over this wall and kick this and that's what Dave Chappelle did. So, continue.
He didn't incite violence. He didn't incite a riot or anything like that. He's just speaking his mind. He's a comedian. Comedians going to be comedians at the end of the day. Richard Pryor was talking about all types of crazy stuff. So we got to really realize who Dave Chappelle is. He literally walked away from 50 million. So it's not like he really worried about being canceled.
Philip Anderson told us he's part of the LGBT community.
I try not to get into all of that because I'm a part of the community, but I think everybody should let their guard down and don't be so sensitive.
In a memo obtained by Variety, Netflix's co-CEO implied that they would keep Chappelle on their platform. Damon Wayans, another stand-up comedian, praised Dave Chappelle, likened him to an emancipator. He said comedians are slaves to political correctness culture, and that with this special, Dave Chappelle has set them free. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced on Friday that he's going to end the city's Gifted and Talented, or G&T, program by fall 2022. That means next semester, all kindergartners will receive the same education, regardless of academic merit. But there are some who are against this plan. NTD's Chenny Wu has more from a rally in downtown Manhattan.
Parents are gathered today at New York City's District Pre-K Center, run by the Department of Education, to protest against Mayor de Blasio's plan to eliminate the Gifted and Talented program.
Save G&T! Save G&T! Save our kids!
With less than 3 months left in office, de Blasio made the abrupt decision, seemingly without input from New York City parents,
to simply discontinue with one swoop of a pen the Gifted and Talented programs in New York City without consulting parents, without listening to parents, is absolutely disgraceful.
Critics argue that the G&T program unfairly favors white and Asian students. Assemblymember William Colton was a public school teacher in Brooklyn for 11 years. He denies claims that the program is racist.
I had the opportunity to teach a Gifted and Talented program. The children in my program were reading years above grade level, doing math and science years above grade level. Every one of those children was either African American or Hispanic.
Colton adds that instead of removing the G&T program, schools should improve it.
If we expand the gifted programs, we're going to find out that more and more children in every neighborhood of every ethnic group are able to succeed in those programs and will be able to reach their highest potential in our school education system.
A mother of two, Guilin, says the program provided her children with a good learning environment.
It provides individualized instruction to each student according to their learning level, which helps them to better absorb the information.
As the next semester will start after de Blasio's successor is sworn in, it will be up to the new mayor whether the G&T program will continue. Chenny Wu, NTD News, New York.
California's governor recently signed a bill that makes ethnic studies a requirement to graduate from high school. NTD's David Lamb reports.
California Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed Assembly Bill 101, and it affects California high school students in public and charter schools. Starting with the graduating class of the 2030 school year, all students must complete a semester of ethnic studies. Middle schools are also required to offer at least a one-semester course in ethnic studies, commencing with the 2025-26 school year. Assemblyman Jose Medina, who authored the bill, said in a statement that this curriculum is long overdue. Students cannot have a full understanding of the history of our state and nation without the inclusion of the contributions and struggles of Native Americans, African Americans, Latinos, and Asian Americans. Secretary of State Shirley Weber also supports the bill. But some parents have claimed that the ethnic studies model curriculum will sow hatred and racial diversion because it's based on critical race theory, which classifies people based on privilege and skin color. Now, this new legislation makes California the first state with this graduation requirement. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Coming up, California authorities have now identified the pilot who crashed a plane into a UPS truck on Monday. 2 deaths and 2 hospitalizations are confirmed. And there's a new program at the San Francisco International Airport to detect COVID-19 variants. It's a voluntary test for international travelers. More shortly here on NTD News. An update on the Monday afternoon plane crash in Southern California. Local authorities have identified the pilot and confirmed 2 deaths and 2 hospitalizations. We hear more from NTD's Yudi Hu.
Around 3 p.m., UPS confirmed the death of the truck driver. Around 6 p.m., the Yuma Regional Medical Center confirmed the death of Dr. Sugata Das. He was a local cardiologist and the pilot and owner of the twin-engine Cessna C-340 plane. Investigators say the plane was heading to San Diego from Yuma, Arizona, when it encountered an unknown issue and tried to land at a nearby airport. Local witnesses said the plane crashed near the intersection of Greencastle Street and Jeremy Street. The wing of the plane clipped a UPS truck near a stop sign, killing the driver. The body of the plane then slid toward 2 homes and exploded, demolishing 2 homes and damaging 5 others. A newlywed couple, Cody and Courtney, lost their newly bought home in the crash. The couple started a GoFundMe page to assist with temporary housing and other essentials. A retired couple, Maria and Phil, also lost their home and dog Roxy to the crash. The couple also has a GoFundMe page and are currently hospitalized for their injuries. Authorities have not yet identified any other victims.
I want to extend my sympathies to those families and friends of those who tragically lost their lives. On behalf of our City Council, we want you to know we are extending whatever support we can for those who were injured, lost homes, or suffered property damage in this incident.
Santee locals have complained about the increase in low-flying planes in recent years.
And people traveling internationally at the San Francisco International Airport will soon be able to get tested for new COVID variants. The aim is to get a head start in identifying and monitoring the spread. Here's NTD's Eileen Eng with more details.
The CDC announced that San Francisco International Airport has launched a pilot program to test for new COVID variant strains for international travelers arriving at the airport.
And really, the CDC wants to know what those variants are and when they are entering the United States. And the goal is to identify them as soon as possible. And if you think about it, the earliest you can really identify it is the moment that a passenger sets foot in the United States off of an international flight.
It will detect in near real time by partnering with XpressCheck COVID-19 and Ginkgo Bioworks. It's not mandatory, but passengers are encouraged to participate. They can volunteer for 2 types of tests. One type is a pooled PCR test upon arrival, where several passengers' samples are combined and tested as a group. In another type, passengers can take home a test kit and submit 3 to 5 days after arriving in the U.S.
The focus of this program is going to initially be on select flights from India. So this is probably about 3 to 5% of total international arriving flights at SFO.
According to Yekel, the test samples will be sent to the CDC for assessment. NTD reached out to XpressCheck and Ginkgo Bioworks for more details, but did not receive a response by deadline.
I think the new variants are definitely what's pretty scary, so any additional testing to try and stop it, I think, is pretty reasonable.
Domestic travel, I don't think it really matters, but international, especially coming from countries that can't get the vaccine.
I mean, yeah, I don't really have anything against rapid testing. If they're able to get tested in an airport, or any international people be able to get rapid testing, I mean, there's no real negatives to it. It's just, just keeps people more safe and informed on if they have it or not.
All passengers flying into the U.S. are required to have a negative test result within 3 days before travel, regardless of vaccination status. The CDC is announcing similar programs at New York's JFK and Newark airports. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
A county in California voted against vaccine passports. The Board of Supervisors says such mandates are harmful to the public. Here's NTD's Cynthia Kai with more.
California's San Joaquin County voted on Tuesday to adopt a resolution prohibiting mandatory vaccine passports by any government office, board, agent, or private businesses. Introduced by Supervisor Tom Patty, the resolution states that a person's vaccination records are private and vaccine passports would cause more harm to the public.
And whereas a vaccine passport would become the next generation of a show me your papers totalitarian regime.
After over 2 hours of public comments, mostly in support of the resolution, the Board of Supervisors voted 4-0 in favor of the resolution, with one supervisor absent.
Our mind, our body, we're Americans, we make our own decisions. So I can't support anything when the governor says, take a shot, and if you don't believe in it, why should you take it?
The Board of Supervisors say businesses have suffered throughout the pandemic, and that such restrictions will further harm many small businesses.
As to the mandates, for me personally, I do support the resolution, and anything that comes along that inhibits your freedom, you should be, very suspicious. And I believe the greatest risk is giving up your fundamental rights.
However, San Francisco and Los Angeles recently adopted mandatory vaccine verification to enter certain indoor facilities. California is also the first state to adopt COVID vaccines as a requirement for indoor learning once the FDA approves a vaccine for children in grades K through 6 and 7 through 12. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
The Florida Department of Health is fining one of the state's counties over $3.5 million for imposing vaccine mandates. The county's move violates Florida's ban on vaccine passports. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
Florida's Leon County has been slapped with a $3.5 million fine from the Florida Department of Health. Governor Ron DeSantis announced the news in a tweet Tuesday. He said the county violated Florida law and fired 14 employees for not complying with the county's forced vaccination policy. The health department's notice of violation states the county's facing 714 counts for requiring employees to provide proof of vaccination. Florida banned vaccine passports in May. Under the law, the Department of Health is able to issue fines of up to $5,000 per person who's asked to show vaccination status. Leon County announced in July that its employees had to be fully vaccinated by October 1st. In a statement to WCTV, Leon County Administrator Vince Long said there's a genuine disagreement about the applicability of the law. He added the county will enforce its rights using any legal remedies available if necessary. Long's previously defended the county's mandate and said it would hold up in court. DeSantis said in his tweet, no one should lose their job over the vaccine. He further wrote, we must protect the jobs of Floridians and preserve the ability of Floridians to make their own decisions regarding what shots to take. Texas is also coming down hard on vaccine requirements. The state's governor, Greg Abbott, issued an executive order on Monday banning vaccine mandates by any entity, public or private. The Florida Department of Health has given Leon County 30 days to pay the fine. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
Coming up, floods in China are impacting agriculture. Video shows farmers struggling to cope with the disaster. And China's Evergrande Group missed its third round of bond payments in as many weeks. And 3 other Chinese firms joined the ranks of struggling developers. That and more on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
A dozen villages are underwater in northwest China. Flood levels in some regions are rising to historic heights, affecting hundreds of thousands of residents. And just a warning, some viewers may find the following footage disturbing due to its graphic nature. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more.
Outside of Santee, other regions are also coping with flood damage. Farmers in China's Henan province are struggling, dealing with devastated crops and drowned livestock. Online videos reveal the situation, where many of those affected have reportedly gotten little in terms of aid. Clips show many farmers using outdated or primitive farming equipment to repair their land, while some have resorted to full-on manual labor. The images have raised the question of just how developed is rural China, and how much does Beijing support the nation's farmers? In some villages, floodwaters measure up to 6.5 feet deep, while a number of locals say Chinese authorities are releasing even more excess floodwater without warning residents. More reports of flood damage are coming out of northwestern China. Excess water has breached one riverbank in the country's Santee province amid continuous heavy rains. The resulting flood drowned 12 small towns there. The downpour first hit Dali County and Santee province over the weekend. The water level of the river there rose to a historical high before the overflow. According to Chinese state media, the river water flooded over 80,000 acres of farmland, impacting close to 250,000 residents. Local authorities reported an economic loss of over $70 million, though we cannot verify these figures independently. In recent months, Dali County has seen 5 different instances of multi-day downpours. Total rainfall there has reached about 27 inches. September's rain levels averaged nearly 3 times higher than in the same period from previous years. After this most recent flood, local authorities reportedly provided victims with little to no assistance, driving locals to call for help online. A netizen posted on social media platform Weibo, asking, can anyone pay attention to the flood in Dali County, Santee province? It's really serious. Another poster wrote, people here were the first to leave. Most of them were urged by officials to find refuge with their relatives and friends. The person added, the people of Santee province had to help themselves. In addition to the flood reports, heavy rain is also causing other destruction. In another part of Santee, a landslide struck a road on Monday, halting cars and trucks in their tracks. Witnesses caught the moment on camera and later shared it online.
Chinese property firms took heavy fire in bond markets on Tuesday. This after the poster child of the sector's woes, Evergrande Group, missed its 3rd round of bond payments in weeks. And the number of debt-saddled companies rose to 4.
China Evergrande missed a fresh round of bond payments on Tuesday. The ailing property developer was due to pay $148 million to overseas creditors. That's its third miss in as many weeks, and expectations of any payment were always slim. Evergrande has liabilities of more than $300 billion, including nearly $20 billion in offshore debt. The firm has been prioritising domestic creditors, but the mounting fears of a messy collapse are now hammering the whole Chinese property sector. Another developer, Modern Land, is asking for more time to repay what it owes, while Cynic Holdings said it would likely default next week on bonds worth $250 million. That company's shares were suspended last month after plunging nearly 90%. Traders have also been unable to buy or sell Evergrande shares after trading in them was suspended last week. Shanghai's stock exchange data showed the top 5 losers among exchange-traded bonds in Tuesday morning deals were all issued by property firms.
More supply chain disruptions. The world's largest shipping firm, Maersk, is diverting big ships away from a British port because it's so jammed. They're instead rerouting the cargo to somewhere else in Europe and then transporting the goods to the UK. Maersk blames the trucker shortage in the country for the backup. A spokesperson for the port says many factors caused the buildup, including the surge of demand before Christmas, transport shortages, and congested inland terminals. The Felixstowe port handles about a third of the UK's freight. And European leaders are alarmed by soaring energy prices and uncertainty over whether Russia will increase gas supplies to the EU. Despite President Putin's assurances that Russia is sending more gas to Europe, Gazprom continues to prioritize the Russian market amid accusations that it is trying to force approval for the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The U.S. and some European nations oppose the pipeline, which they believe will increase Russia's power as the EU's primary gas supplier. NTD's Eddie Aitken brings us this report.
Soaring energy prices are causing alarm among European leaders and sending shivers through global markets. Europe's natural gas prices have rocketed almost 600% this year. Consumers facing a huge jump in fuel bills are worried current storage levels will be insufficient for the winter. The European Union imports 41% of its gas from Russia and 16% from Norway. But whilst Norway is stepping up supplies to the EU, Russia is sending out conflicting messages on whether it will follow suit. Last week, President Putin said Russia was boosting gas supplies to Europe to stabilize the market. But the deputy CEO of Russian gas supply company Gazprom said it was continuing to pump natural gas to Russia's underground storage facilities. Gazprom also said this week it would prioritize its home market over exports because it expected a cold and snowy winter. Some parliamentarians allege that Gazprom is trying to force swift approval for Nord Stream 2, a pipeline that will send Russian gas to Germany. Russia has repeatedly denied any political agenda. The US and some European nations oppose the project, saying it will make the EU even more dependent on Russian fuel. EU ministers debated whether the bloc should begin jointly buying gas to improve their bargaining position and form strategic reserves. The EU Energy Commissioner says underground gas storage is more than 75% full across Europe, and countries have enough to cover their winter needs. But EU gas stocks are at a 10-year low. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Consumers are splurging on diamonds this year. Signet Jewelers is raising its outlook for the second time in recent weeks, and it's buying another jewelry chain. NTD's Faye Corder reports.
The diamond market is on fire right now.
Demand for diamonds right now is probably the strongest that it's been in at least 10 years.
Signet Jewelers said Tuesday it decided to buy the jewelry chain Diamonds Direct USA for $490 million in cash. It's trying to reach younger shoppers and achieve its annual revenue goal of $9 billion. After the news, Signet's shares jumped more than 5%. So why is the diamond industry doing so well right now when others aren't?
A lot of the stimulus that's kind of passing through to consumers in the U.S., but also globally, Consumers have additional income to spend on items like luxury, but at the same time, people are not spending money on these experiential items like fine dining and international travel, but instead they're buying material luxury items like diamonds.
From the sentimental side, people could be giving diamonds to loved ones to show how much they care.
I think people are giving diamonds as an emotional gift to signal to the people that they spent the pandemic with how much they mean to them and how important to them they are.
As venues reopen, more people are also ready to hold weddings and other celebrations with loved ones.
The number of weddings that is occurring in the U.S. this year is probably the highest in multiple years because of the pent-up demand.
Zimnisky estimates that diamond sales in the U.S. will be at least 10% higher than before the pandemic, and expectations are for the upcoming holiday season to be very strong. Faye Quarter, NTD News.
And one city in Greece just made its first test flight using a drone to deliver medicine. They're looking for new transportation methods that are better for the environment and can reach isolated places. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Authorities in one Greek city recently made the first test flight of a drone that will be used to deliver medicines. The drone flew from Trikala, stopped outside a pharmacy, and then landed in a farmer's field in a nearby village.
Technology can give real solutions to real problems that we have today. Today we transported medicines to a pharmacy nearby. Tomorrow it could be to transport medicines to some emergency. The future is here as long as we have courage.
The European-funded program is called Harmony. The aim is to create more environmentally friendly transport methods.
It was difficult since we had to be according to the law, the Greek law and the European law. We hope that the future will compensate us by delivering medicaments to many people.
The drones will be used to transport medication to people who have mobility issues and those who are isolated. Officials said the project is particularly crucial during a pandemic. Greece is full of mountainous villages. Locals can become cut off in the winter if there's heavy snowfall.
I believe we are one step closer to the future. At some point, all these methods will be adopted and implemented to make our lives and citizens' lives easier.
The Harmony program also includes autonomous vehicles. It will be tested in 6 cities in Europe and Britain with different sizes, infrastructure, and demographics. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, classical Chinese dance is captivating audiences and even bringing them to tears. 4 states hosted the dance show by Shen Yun Performing Arts over the weekend. We bring you more from the audience. And a new underwater museum in Turkey consists of 14 largely intact shipwrecks. Divers get a glimpse into the naval battles of World War I when Ottoman forces defended their waters from invading British and French troops. That and more on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
When was the last time a show moved you to tears? Shen Yun did just that this weekend. The performing arts company gave 10 performances in 4 states over the weekend, and many audience members said they waited for years to see the show.
A performance touching to the heart.
The last scene on Compassion, I literally had a spiritual experience. My heart just opened with divine love. I could feel every cell of my body vibrating as the divine. It was just phenomenal. These artists, they are meticulous in their form. It is precision. It is God incarnate on stage. It is perfection. It is a universal spiritual experience of the divine in the human form, that we are all God's children.
It's astounding. We've waited 2 years to see this, and I appreciate the bravery. Really, because of the disgusting things going on in China and how these kids are bringing it to light. And the rest of it is just fantastic.
Stringberg was moved by the piece depicting the ongoing persecution in China. Shen Yun draws inspiration from ancient values. It includes performances from legends and fables, as well as modern-day tales of courage and virtue.
I'm honored to have been able to see that in my lifetime, to see an artist of his caliber bringing together a company like this and this kind of production to share this kind of a performance.
Reynolds is known for his work in the Star Wars franchise and said Shen Yun gives him hope in humanity.
Shen Yun does this. It shows us the whole range of who we are, but it also shows us who we can be. And that's the hope of it. That's why you don't come out crushed by the tragedy, because it's there with the message of hope. Yes. And the way it's presented so powerfully that it makes me believe that. And that's what I'm most grateful for in this performance, that it makes me believe that the ancient traditions, the ancient values are what will get us through all of this that's so heartbreaking in the modern world. And that if we find the people who share a value for these things, that in finding each other and communicating that value, we will get through it and there will be something wonderful that's worth waiting for.
Shen Yun will be performing in 3 other states this week.
San Francisco, California's St. Mary's Cathedral is the latest host for the Michelangelo Sistine Chapel exhibition. The exhibit allows visitors to experience replicas of Michelangelo's art from an up-close perspective. NTD's Jason Blair gives us a look at the exhibit.
An exhibit featuring replicas of Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel frescoes is being displayed here at St. Mary's Cathedral in San Francisco. Tickets are selling out as people hurry to get a glimpse of the historical works.
Since a lot of people have not been to the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican in Rome, so we bring Sistine Chapel here.
Michelangelo's works at the Vatican in Rome are located high up on the ceiling. This exhibit takes life-size prints of these works and allows you to get an up-close view of them.
Here the experience here is that as if you are lifted up to 10 feet right below the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
Actually, we saw the one in Rome, but you get to see so much more detail here. Actually, I learned a lot more seeing this than the actual frescoes because it's so close up.
Very detailed and very big. It must have taken a lot of work.
I thought it was the next best thing to the real thing.
Talks to bring the exhibit to St. Mary's Cathedral originally started 2 years ago, but plans were delayed due to the pandemic.
Last year, as things started to open up again, we got into discussions with the owner of the company, and we finally were able to bring it here.
St. Mary's Cathedral is known for its unique architecture and attracts the attention of many tourists.
People are enjoying the location. They're coming to the cathedral, and they are surprised at the size of our venue because it really is dimensionally very close to the Sistine Chapel.
The church through the centuries has always been a purveyor and a guardian of the arts.
I learned a lot, not only each individual picture, but the whole process that he used. It was so enjoyable.
The exhibit is being featured in 28 cities across the world. Here in San Francisco, it's on display until January 1st. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
Turkey Turkey's newest park is an underwater museum of 14 largely intact shipwrecks. Divers get a glimpse into the naval battles of World War I, when Ottoman forces defended their waters from invading British and French troops. Here's NTD's Eddie Aitken with the story.
Gallipoli Historic Underwater Park is one of Turkey's newest attractions. 14 shipwrecks beneath the waves of the Dardanelles Strait give divers a glimpse into the fierce battles of World War I.
We were waiting for a long time for this underwater historical park to be opened, and today that is the fortunate day. The park has 14 different shipwrecks for all different levels.
Its opening marks the 106th anniversary of Ottoman and German forces halting an invasion by British, French, Australian and Kiwi troops. Savas Karakas says he was able to reconnect with his grandfather who fought in the Gallipoli campaign of 1915.
My grandfather's hand was disfigured, he was wounded in action, his hand was burnt. I was always scared of his hand when I was a small child, but when I come to Gallipoli and when I dive, the rust metal, the steel reminds me of my grandfather's hands, and I hold this hand under the water.
The Ottoman resistance remains a point of deep pride in modern Turkey. It thwarted the Allies' plan to control the straits, connecting the Aegean to the Black Sea. Heavy British losses include the sinking of the HMS Majestic battleship.
It made a major impact on the British Army and the Navy, and they lost a lot of morale. When they lost, it could have changed the steering of the war.
Turks mark what they call the Çanakkale War, when Ottoman forces repelled an Allied assault, sinking a French battleship and destroying British warships. HMS Majestic is the first stop for divers at the park. It and other vessels are largely intact on the seafloor, a window into the naval struggles of World War I. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV, type in your zip code, and find all the ways you can watch NTD.